Hey guys, it's Allison again, and contrary to popular belief, teenagers do not actually wither and die without their phones. I'm about to rant. Why is it that older people have such a big problem with teenagers using their phones? Every time I'm with my extended family, there's always at least one comment made about all the phones in the room.
Back in my day, we had conversations face to face.
Maybe we'd make more conversation with you if you'd ask more interesting questions than how school is going. Which, by the way, does not need to end up in an uncomfortable lecture on about how our performances could be better. Believe me, we get that enough from everywhere else. While you're across the room talking about the terrible state of our country for the 1000th time, I'm having a much more in-depth and inspired conversation with a friend I made despite the fact that she lives across the globe. How is that not the coolest thing you can think of apart from, like, black holes or alternate realities or something like that? I don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on airfare just to wind up spending time in a crowded hotel with other middle-class Americans rather than actually meeting the locals and delving into part of their culture that is more than just pretty colors and shows for tourists. I'm actually having a conversation with someone from there in real time right now. And we're talking about anything we can think of, like comparing cultures and lifestyles. That way, when I do spend hundreds on airfare, I can actually be visiting a friend, which is much more than going to a museum made to entertain sunburned parents and their noisy kids.
You're wasting away in front of a screen!
No, I'm not, actually. I know I may be few in numbers in this respect, but I actually use my phone to learn, believe it or not. The apps I regularly use on my phone are Psychological Dictionary, Spotify, Cool Facts, and Piano Tiles. After that I have Instagram and Wanilo. And on Wanilo I'm saving things covered in science puns and feminist empowerment, and then art supplies and books about science. And on Instagram I'm only further disproving the idea that I'm wasting away in front of a screen. It's nothing but pictures of things like my art, me with my friends, and interesting sights I've come to see while I'm not wasting away on my phone. Or talking to a camera alone in my room. The internet is a lot more than just memes and games. It's an amazing tool that can open your eyes to current world issues, allow you to learn and connect with people all over the world.
Try to spend at least 5 minutes off your phone.
For some people, their phones are actually a security blanket. While the internet is certainly just as riddled with trolls and bullies as real life is, it is certainly a lot easier to avoid those things since you have control over what you want to see and where you want to go. If you want to get somebody off of their phones and making more conversation with you, then maybe you should work on making them feel a little more comfortable around you. Meaning not judging them, not pressing uncomfortable subjects, and respecting their boundaries for once.
When I was your age, we didn't have songs without virtual screens.
Just because you didn't have the luxury of having smartphones when you were a teenager doesn't mean you can belittle the generation that does. I'm sure when you were a teenager, the older generation was just as upset with what you considered fun in your time. When TVs first came around, the kids in that generation went crazy for them and likely abandoned a lot of other activities they used to do. Engineers and inventors typically create things for the betterment of human society. What do you want? For us to just boycott anything new just because you guys didn't have it when you were younger? It isn't fair to bully and shame an entire generation just because they're taking full advantage of the things available to them in their time, just like you did with the things available to you in yours.
What would you do if you lost that thing, huh?
I mean, I'd look for it. It's not like it's a very expensive and personal piece of equipment that ultimately makes your life safer and easier or anything, right? That's like asking what somebody would do if they lost their house keys. Pretty important object, don't you think?
Kids these days can't survive without their cell phones.
Not only is that unfair, going back to my previous statement that phones can be a security blanket for some, but it's also untrue. Unless somebody has some sort of mental handicap that makes things actually harder for them if they don't have their phone, we typically don't shrivel and collapse in ourselves like a dying star or something if we don't have our phones. I'm willing to guess that in first world countries, one of the first things taken away from most teenagers when they're grounded is their phones. Yeah, I mean, you'll get the occasional melodramatic fit here and there, but somehow, ultimately, we miraculously survive without our phones. We aren't stupid. Most of us. And we understand just as well as you that we won't die if we don't have our phones in our hands 24/7. Okay, I'm gonna stop this video before it gets too long. Comment below if you've had any unpleasant run-ins with phone haters. And if you like this video and want to see more in the future, then make sure you like and subscribe and help stop the robot invasion by one click at a time. Okay, that's all. Bye.